Sean Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and today we're going to talk about dehydrators. And in this episode we're going to talk about the Excalibur brand dehydrators. And I got two dehydrators here, and they're the exact same model. Actually, one is my own personal dehydrator that I've been using for many years, and that's on this side. If we open this guy up, you can see we have some nice stainless steel trays inside here. And this is actually my personal unit. So I do like that Excalibur, recently came out with stainless steel trays, and you could buy an upgrade tray kit to fit your dehydrator if you want to now dehydrate on stainless steel trays instead of the BPA-free plastic liner that comes with the standard dehydrator, which is like on this side. We got the standard plastic trays, and the liners are on the bottom there. So I think it's great that they came out with the stainless steel trays, but one of the things that's not so great is that they've recently changed how the dehydrator works without any large fanfare, without really saying much to anybody about it. And actually I inquired with them twice and got no response as to why the change really happened, so I could only actually guess. So here's the thing. I can no longer recommend the Excalibur 2900, 3900, or 3926, which is the model with the timer, or the 3500, or the 2500, or the 3526, which is the model with the timer. And the main reason for this is because they've changed the temperatures on how the dehydrator works. So we're going to go ahead and give you guys a close-up here on this side, which is my personal machine that came out many years ago. As you guys can see on the temperature, it starts it off, and then as you rotate it, it clicks on. And as it clicks on, right after you get off the off position, it's on. So then you would think that's maybe about 85 degrees, and as you go up, you can see the 95 degrees is as marked. Then it goes up to 105, 115, 125, 135, 145, and it stops at 155. Furthermore, you can see over on this side, it has the drying temperatures for herbs, living foods, raising bread, making yogurt, vegetables, fruits, meats, and jerky. And it says herbs, recommended setting is 95, living foods is recommended 105. And so this is the one that I've had forever, and I like this model. I mean, granted, the rheostat here, which is like that little, it looks like the volume control on an old-fashioned TV from like maybe the 80s when I grew up. TVs don't have rheostats anymore for the volume. They just have digital controls, right? And I think Excalibur really needs to catch up with the times, and maybe even 86 this model with the rheostat, because things are all digital nowadays, man. Except the Excalibur original model. Over on this side, if you guys look here, we're going to go ahead and turn that off, and it starts out, as soon as you turn it on, you're pretty much at the 105 degree mark. And then you could go to 115, 125, 135, 145, 155, and all the way up to 165 degrees. And you could see on the drying guide over here, it says herbs, living foods, 105, and then it goes up to the different temperatures for the different items. So as you guys can see, they dropped the low end. They basically dropped off from 85 degrees all the way up to 104 degrees. It's no longer available on the Excalibur Dehydrator. And this probably doesn't matter much to many people. Actually, the majority of customers probably don't care that this is missing and are not even, frankly, going to miss it. But those are the people that are really, really, really into a raw and living foods lifestyle. They're not so happy about this change, in my opinion, and me being one of them. And the main reason for this is because, if you've done any kind of research on enzymes start to degrade at somewhere around 105 degrees, up to 118 degrees, it said, and depending on the food, the time, the temperature, the enzymes could basically degrade. And it said in the Raw and Living Foods movement that enzymes are the most important things in the food that we should be consuming. Now, after being on a raw and living foods diet now for the last 21 years, this is my 21st year. Enzymes are important. I wouldn't say they're the most important things. There's other things, in my opinion, that are more important than enzymes. But the fact of the matter is, now that you have less flexibility with the Excalibur models that are now available, so all the non-digital models, you have to start out at 105 degrees. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be such a problem. As I had mentioned, the enzymes start to degrade at 105, and 118 is the magic number that people say. Now, the research is totally not clear on what exactly happens to the enzymes at what temperature, and once again, it's not only the time or the temperature, but it's also the time. So 150 degrees for a fraction of a millisecond, is that going to hurt the enzymes? Probably not, but the problem is when you're dehydrating at a constant temperature for a long period of time to basically evaporate off all the moisture. So now you have to set this at 105 degrees, and what I didn't mention earlier is that these old rheostat models, they have a technology called the hyperwave technology in the Excalibur Dehydrator built in. And what this does, this basically fluctuates the temperature of the dehydrator. So if you set it at 105, it's actually going to get, as maybe 10 degrees lower and 10 degrees hotter in the fluctuation, because it works on a system, like a feedback system, like, oh, is it hot enough? No, okay, then I'm going to keep it hot. And if it's hot enough, then I'm going to turn it off. Then it's going to go down lower. Then it's going to click on, click off. And so even if you set it at 105 here, it's going to go above and below that. Kind of like one of those sine waves or whatever like that, right? And so now that if you set it at 105, it's going to, peak out at 115, maybe even 118, depending on how accurate these are. And once again, these are the analog versions, so they're not that accurate. Whereas my old one, I could set it like 85 or 95, and that's going to peak out 10 degrees more, and I'll have a nice cushion in there. So for this reason, if you guys are into raw and living foods, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the non-digital dehydrators. What I would recommend is actually the all-new digital version. So let me go ahead and show you with you guys that in a second. But before I do, the only reason I believe that Excalibur made the dehydrator on the upper end, because this one cuts off at 155, this one now cuts off at 165, is because some new, safety data that came out from the USDA, and here's a guide on this right here. It's actually jerky and food safety. So basically, jerky is like a dehydrated meat product. I made jerky many years ago. But basically, it says what temperature is important when making jerky. So the USDA recommends pre-cooking your meat before dehydration. And if you do choose to eat meat, I do encourage you to pre-cook your meat at hot temperature to kill things like the E. coli and salmonella. And otherwise, it says the USDA Meat and Poultry Hotline current recommendations for making jerky safely is to heat the meat to 160 degrees and poultry to 165 degrees before the dehydration process. This step ensures that any bacteria present will be destroyed by wet heat, but most dehydrators do not include this step, and dehydrators may not reach temperatures high enough to heat meat 160 or 165. So now the Excalibur Dehydrator does do that, whereas before it didn't do that. So, that in my opinion is the reason why Excalibur changed to make the heat range hotter, and they dropped out the lower end because there's probably more people that eat jerky than that eat living and raw foods. So, as much as if you pre-cook your meat or if you dehydrate it at 165, while you will kill, some of the bacteria, E. coli and salmonella and whatnot, there are still other bacteria and, more importantly in my opinion, other toxins in the meat that will not disappear after any kind of cooking. So for that reason, I don't necessarily recommend you guys eating animal products. If you guys want to, of course, that's your totally decision. I personally abstain from those foods myself. Now, what I want to do now is actually get into the upgraded Excalibur Dehydrator that I now recommend to you guys if you guys are on a living and raw foods diet, or if you just want, to have a digital dehydrator. Excalibur's finally caught up with the digital age and now has their digital version of the 3900 dehydrator. So now I want to share with you guys the Excalibur Dehydrator that I now recommend. And this is the 3900 over here, right? The one you guys just saw. And over here we have the all-new 3948 model. Now this model, instead of being the analog rheostat, it is now a full digital model, computer controlled and all. And so not only does this have the new computer controls, It also has a nice snazzy see-through door. Look at that. Hi. This makes it really easy to check on whatever you're dehydrating instead of actually having to take off the door and look inside. You know, you could now just peer through the clear plexiglass there, which I think is a really nice feature. They should have did that long time ago. And once again, the doors on both machines are the lift-off design. Now, other than that, it has the same framing and same internal components, which include the upgraded fan, upgraded heating assembly, and you know, these are durable machines. No matter which model you get, they both have a 10-year full warranty. And the 3900 and the 3948 model that we sell at discount juicers, you know, includes a Preserve It Now book. So let me go ahead and show you guys the booklets that come with each of these machines. Over on this side we have the standard Excalibur Dehydrator instruction manual, plus we have the Preserve It Naturally. I mean, this book is a book that sells for like, I don't know, 25, 30 bucks. And this is literally the Bible of dehydrating, like how to make entrees, how to dehydrate fruits and jerky and vegetables, and make living foods, and how to pre-treat your fruits if you want to, how to store your dehydrated foods. I mean, this is a book that every dehydrator should come with. So literally, you know all about dehydrating after reading this book, unlike just reading the simple instruction manual. That does have a few recipes in there. And once again, on the 3948 model, you get that same Preserve It Naturally book here, but you also get a nice upgraded instruction manual. So I mean, a nice big instruction manual, and here's just a small one here. So it's even packed full of more information. Now, both these dehydrators will work the same aside from just the temperature. As I mentioned, this machine has about a 10-degree fluctuation, and if my memory serves me correctly, this machine has only a 7-degree fluctuation, and it is more precise because it is digital. I guess without further ado, let me go ahead and explain how the digital control works, because this to me is the coolest part of the dehydrator. Not only do you have a set it and forget it like on the 3900 model, actually on this model you can set one temperature, it'll maintain that temperature along with that fluctuation, but you could also set the built-in timer that'll count down to 0 and turn itself off, whereas this one you got to keep checking on it and turn it off manually. In addition, this model has an all-new 2-time 2-temperature dehydration feature. So what this feature allows you to do is to save dehydration time. And how this feature works is basically, I'll show you guys how to program it, but it's super simple. Basically, instead of just dehydrating at 105 the whole time, right when you put the produce item in to be dehydrated, say, for example, you're dehydrating tomatoes. That's one of the things I dehydrate, or peppers. You know, when I have a big abundance harvest in my garden, I'll cut up all the tomatoes or peppers, put them in here, and as you put the tomatoes in there, they're really moist, and they have a lot of water content. So personally, I don't have a problem setting the dehydrator at like 130, 140 degrees for the first 2 hours, because literally the first couple hours when the dehydrator is working, it's going to work the hardest and to maintain the temperature inside the machine, because it's dehydrating all that moisture, which is cooling down the food. So the faster you can get this moisture off by setting the dehydrator at a hotter temperature, the sooner your dehydration job will be done. And the cool thing is when you put the food in there originally, it has so much water content, even if you set it at 130, 140 degrees for the first 2 hours, the food temperature will still not exceed, you know, 118 degrees, for example. And so now you could dehydrate for 2 hours in the beginning and then dehydrate the rest of the time, you know, at the lower temperature that you desire. This is very useful for people into living in raw foods, or just anybody that wants to save time dehydrating instead of just setting it at one temperature. Of course, you could set it for, you know, a higher temperature and then come back in 2 hours and then reset it. But, you know, why have to think about things in this digital age when you have computers to do all the work for you? You know, you could save easily 20% of the time that you're going to take to dehydrate by using this technique here, and that's what I do every single time I dehydrate nowadays. So let me go ahead and give you guys a close-up shot of the control panel and how you easily can program this new 3948 digital model. So now I want to share with you guys how easy it is to control the digital model here. The first step is we're going to go ahead and turn the machine on. On the back of the panel there's actually an on-off switch. which is nice and convenient. The previous model only had an on and off switch in the rheostat, which was off and then on. As you guys can see, when you power it on, you have two things. You have the temperature that you're set at. This is currently set to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you have the time that it will run until it shuts off and powers off. So if you are a Celsius kind of person, you could hold down the start button and press the time button, hold them both down. And as you guys can see, there's a little C there. I don't know if you guys could see that on the camera, but the little C, and that's Celsius. Now we're going to do the same thing and convert it back to Fahrenheit, since I'm a Fahrenheit kind of guy. So now we're going to go ahead and show you guys how easy it is to set the temperature instead of the dial that you've had previously. You know, now there's just a temperature there, 95 degrees, and a temp plus and a temp minus. The bottom end is 95 once again, and we could hold this down to go to 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. You could have the precise temperature that you wanted, whereas the other machine was not quite as accurate. I mean, it was analog instead of digital. This is 100% computer controlled and quite smart, so I like that a lot. We're holding down the plus button to go to the maximum temperature, and we maxed out at 165. I usually like to set my foods when I dehydrate, because this has a 7-degree temperature swing. I like to set it at approximately 111 degrees as the running temperature, and then of course in the beginning for two temperature I like to set it maybe like 130, 140. Next we're going to do the time. Right now it's set for 15 seconds only, and you could do the time and you could have the dehydrator run for as low as 1 minute if you wanted. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but maybe you just want to heat up a jar of honey for 15 minutes, or maybe you want to wilt your spinach, just put it in there, not to dehydrate it, but just to take some of the moisture content out, which makes it a lot easier to eat and compact to eat. Maybe you want to do that for a half hour. If you're going to hold this down, it increments by the 15 minute, and then it starts really incrementing fast. I don't know if you guys could see that, you know, by the hour. And it goes up to a total of 48 hours. Thus, this is the 3948 model. And then you just hit the start button. You hear a beep, it lets you know that it comes on, and then it turns on. It's going to maintain the 111 degrees with the fluctuation, and then a countdown from 48 hours. Now when you're done dehydrating, if you want to turn it off early, just hit that stop button there. It'll turn it off, the counter will reset. So that's how to program it for single stage temperature the whole run through. So now I want to go ahead and show you guys how to program it for the two temperature, and to do that you're going to hold down the stop and the time minus button at the same time. You're going to hear it beep, and it's going to basically say it's going to have a little 1 right there, and on the bottom it's going to say two temp mode. And now you're going to program the first temperature. So for example, I'm going to program mine to do 140 degrees as we get up to like 140, and I'm going to program it for about maybe like 2.5 hours or so. That would probably be my standard. Two hours and 30 minutes. Next we're going to go ahead and hold down the stop button and hit the time minus again. And now you can see there's a little 2 that lit up down there. And now we have, once again, 95 degrees for 15 minutes. Now we're going to go ahead and increase the temperature on that to 111. That's what I like to run it at. And then we're going to go ahead and increase the time. And depending on what you're going to dehydrate, there are, you know, guides in the book. I generally do like kale chips or tomatoes. If I do it overnight, 12 to 16 hours, depending on where you live, that'll be sufficient. And we're going to go ahead and I was holding the button down, so it went up so fast. So we're just going to go back down to like, you know, I don't know, about 16 hours. Let's go down to 16 hours. Yep, 15. 16 hours. Now that we got a program, all you have to do is hit the start button. Now as you guys can see, it flipped over and there's a little 1 that's displayed there, and it's at 140 degrees for 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's going to count down, and when it reaches 0, it's now going to go ahead and go into the second mode, temperature 2, for 111 degrees for the remaining of the time, the 16 hours that I set it for. So there you guys have it. As you guys saw and learned in this episode, the 3900 analog model should be 86 in my opinion. Of course, if you don't have a lot of money, you might want to get this. But just for a little bit more money, I would highly encourage you guys to get the new 3948 model. Not only does it have a really cool, clear door that you could actually look through and see through, it also has the new digital controls that are more precise, easier to set. You don't have to babysit your dehydrator because it has a built-in timer in there, and it's more precise. I mean, in temperature. I mean, this is huge, especially if you're into the living in raw foods diet, such as I am on. And so that's what I'd recommend to you guys if you want to get an Excalibur Dehydrator. Now, the other thing I want to say, besides the 3948 model, they do have an EXCEL10, and that's actually the unit that I personally use at home, and that's their digital model that's all stainless steel. So be sure to check the link down below to a link of a review that I did for that model, and that's the one I prefer overall. That's the top end, high end Excalibur Dehydrator that's actually even certified for commercial use, NSF. And these models are meant for the home, as well. So that's pretty much it for this episode. If you guys like this episode, me talking about the Excalibur brand dehydrators, want me to have more videos of the Excalibur Dehydrator, hey, please give me a thumbs up. It's one of my goals to get out to Excalibur one of these days and show you guys their factory and how these guys are still made in the United States of America. So I really respect that and like that Excalibur is still manufacturing in the United States after all these years. And also be sure to check my past episodes. I have over 400 episodes now, many on dehydrators, but most of them are on juicers and some are on blenders. It's the appliances that allow you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. If you guys enjoyed this episode, I want to encourage you guys to support me and my work by making your purchase at discountjuicers.com, where we actually sell more than just juicers. We also sell dehydrators and the blenders. And also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below to be notified of my new and upcoming episodes. I have new and upcoming episodes coming out of every 5 to 7 days to educate you guys about different juicers, comparing different dehydrators, and all the appliances that allow you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet so that you guys can get healthier instead of eating all the processed foods, junk foods, and animal foods in excess like unfortunately too many Americans do today. So once again, my name is John Kohler with discountjuicers.com. Be sure to visit discountjuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for YouTube visitors. Alright, this is John Kohler with discountjuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you guys, and what we're going to do today is compare two different juicers on the market. And what we're going to do is compare the TriBest Slow Star juicer to the Juicepresso Platinum juicer. Now, both these juicers are vertical single